A few years ago, I noticed something that didn't make sense. Some of the smartest people I knew were constantly stressed about money. And I don't mean people who were lazy, I mean genuinely smart people. The kind of people everyone goes to for advice. The people who always seem to know the answer. The people who did well in school, got good jobs, and seemed like they had everything figured out. But when money came up, the story was often very different. One friend was earning a decent salary but had almost nothing saved. Another knew more about investing than most people, yet had never actually started investing. And then there was a guy who could explain complex financial concepts better than anyone I knew, but was living paycheck to paycheck. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence. But the more I paid attention, the more I realized something strange. Being smart and building wealth are not the same thing. In fact, sometimes being smart can actually get in the way. Now, before anyone gets offended, I'm not saying intelligence is a bad thing. Obviously, being knowledgeable helps. But if intelligence alone created wealth, every top student would become financially free. And we all know that's not what happens. Think about your own life for a second. You probably know someone who wasn't considered the smartest person in the room. Maybe they weren't top of their class. Maybe they weren't the most talented, yet somehow they're doing surprisingly well financially. Meanwhile, someone much smarter is still struggling. Why? That's what we're going to unpack today. And once you see it, you might start looking at money very differently. One of the biggest problems starts when we're young. For most of our lives, we're taught how to succeed in school, not how to succeed with money. School rewards people for having the right answers. You study, you memorize, you take the test, you get rewarded. Simple. The better your answers are, the better your results usually become. The problem is that real life doesn't work like that. Money doesn't hand out report cards. Nobody gives you an A for understanding compound interest. Nobody gives you extra points for watching 50 investing videos. And that's where a lot of smart people get stuck. Without even realizing it, they keep approaching money the same way they approached school. They believe that if they learn enough, read enough, and understand enough, everything will eventually fall into place. Honestly, that sounds reasonable. I used to think that too. But here's the weird part. Some of the people who know the most about money never actually do anything with that knowledge. They keep learning, keep researching, keep preparing, but they never move. It's like standing at the edge of a swimming pool reading books about swimming. You might become an expert on swimming techniques, but you're still standing on the edge. And eventually, someone who knows less than you jumps into the water and starts making progress. That's frustrating. But it's also incredibly common because knowledge feels productive. Taking action feels uncomfortable. And our brains naturally prefer comfort. Let me give you an example. Maybe you've wanted to start investing, so you open YouTube, you watch a video about index funds, then another, then one about market crashes, then one about dividend stocks, then one about real estate, then one about retirement accounts. A week later, you know more than before. A month later, you know even more. 3 months later, you've watched dozens of videos, and somehow your money is still sitting in the exact same place. Nothing changed. Not because you weren't smart enough, because learning became a substitute for action. And honestly, that's one of the most dangerous traps intelligent people fall into. The smarter you are, the easier it becomes to convince yourself that more research is necessary. There's always one more article, one more strategy, one more opinion, one more thing to learn. But wealth isn't built by knowing everything. It's built by doing something, even when you don't have every answer. Another reason smart people struggle financially is something nobody really talks about. They hate being beginners. Think about it. If you've spent most of your life being good at things, failing feels uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. You're used to understanding things quickly. You're used to getting things right. You're used to being the person who has answers. Then suddenly you decide to learn investing, or start a side business, or negotiate a higher salary, and for the first time in a long time, you feel inexperienced. You make mistakes. You ask basic questions. You feel awkward. A lot of people quit right there. Not because they're incapable, because their ego can't handle being a beginner. The funny thing is that beginners who keep going usually end up far ahead of talented people who never start. Think about learning to drive. Nobody expects perfection on the first day. Nobody gets into a car and immediately becomes an expert. Money works the same way. You learn by doing. You improve by making mistakes. You gain confidence through experience. Yet when money is involved, people expect themselves to get everything right before they begin. That's impossible, and it keeps them stuck. Now let's talk about something that surprises a lot of people. High income and wealth are not the same thing. Most people assume that earning more automatically solves financial problems. Sometimes it does, but often it doesn't. A few years ago, I heard someone say something I'll never forget. He said, "Every time I got a raise, I thought I'd finally feel comfortable." Maybe you felt that too. You tell yourself that once you earn a little more, everything will get easier. Then the raise arrives, and for a few weeks it feels amazing. Then life quietly adjusts. The nicer apartment suddenly seems reasonable. The more expensive car feels justified. The subscriptions don't seem like a big deal. The weekend spending increases. The vacations become a little bigger, and before you know it, your lifestyle has expanded to match your income. The extra money disappears. Not because you're irresponsible, because humans adapt incredibly fast. What once felt luxurious starts feeling normal. Then you want the next upgrade, and the next one, and the next one. That's why some people earn six figures and still feel financially stressed. From the outside, they look wealthy. Behind the scenes, they're constantly running on a treadmill. No matter how fast they move, they never seem to get ahead. Here's something else I've noticed. Smart people are often excellent at explaining their decisions, even bad ones. Actually, especially bad ones. A person wants to buy something expensive, their brain immediately starts building a case. I deserve it. I worked hard. It's an investment. It'll improve my productivity. It'll save time. Sometimes those reasons are true. Sometimes they're not. But intelligent people are incredibly good at creating logical explanations for emotional decisions. That's why being smart doesn't automatically protect you from bad financial choices. In some cases, it makes those choices easier to justify. And that's a tough thing to admit, because most financial mistakes don't happen because people lack intelligence. They happen because people are human. We all have emotions. We all have impulses. We all want comfort. And money decisions are often emotional long before they're logical. So what actually builds wealth? If it's not intelligence alone, what is it? Honestly, the answer is a lot less exciting than most people expect. Consistency. That's it. Not perfection, not genius, not secret strategies. Consistency. Saving consistently, investing consistently, learning consistently, making slightly better decisions consistently. The people who build wealth usually aren't making one perfect decision. They're making hundreds of decent decisions over many years. And that's important, because it means financial success isn't reserved for some special group of people. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You don't need to predict the future. You don't need to know everything. You just need to keep moving forward. Even when progress feels slow, even when results aren't immediate, even when nobody notices. If you're watching this and you've always considered yourself a smart person, here's what I'd want you to remember. Your intelligence isn't the problem. The problem might be where you're directing it. Use your intelligence to simplify, not complicate. Use it to make decisions, not avoid them. Use it to build systems, not excuses. And most importantly, don't wait until you feel completely ready, because nobody ever does. The people who build wealth aren't the people with perfect confidence. They're the people willing to take imperfect action again and again for years. And maybe that's the biggest lesson here. Wealth doesn't care how many books you've read. It doesn't care about your grades. It doesn't care how intelligent you are. It responds to behavior, to habits, to consistency, to action, which is actually good news, because it means your financial future isn't determined by how smart you are. It's determined by what you do next. So before you click away, ask yourself one question. What's one financial decision you've been delaying? Maybe it's starting an investment account. Maybe it's creating a budget. Maybe it's paying off debt. Maybe it's finally taking control of your money. Whatever it is, stop waiting for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment rarely arrives. And years from now, the thing that changes your financial life probably won't be a new piece of information. It'll be the moment you finally decided to act.